sociological perspective. The sociological perspective helps us understand that our individual lives are shaped by the society we live in, not just by our personal choices. It's like looking at a tree. You might see the individual leaves, but the sociological perspective makes you step back and see how the entire forest or society influences. How each leaf grows, that kind of light it gets, and how it interacts with the other leaves and trees. It teaches us that many things we experience personally, like our opportunities or challenges, are often connected to larger patterns and structure in our community and the world. The concept of self is largely influenced by social situations and is not formed in isolation. Our self perceptions, including our self concept and self esteem, are developed through observations and interactions with others. We rely on these social contents to provide a social reality that helps determine our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Imagine yourself. Who are you? What are you good at? How do you feel about yourself? This text is telling us that you don't just figure these things out by yourself, sitting alone in a room. Think of it this way: you're like a social sponge. From the moment you're born, you soak up information from everyone around you: your friends, family, classmates, teachers, and even what you see online. Other people are your mirrors. If your classmates laugh at your jokes, you might start to see yourself as funny. If your parents praise your drawing, you might think, hey, I am good at art. If someone criticizes you, that can also affect how you see yourself. We ask questions to society. When you wonder, am I pretty? Or am I smart? You often look at what other people find attractive or intelligent, or you ask for their opinions. This shows you're using society to get answers about yourself. So, your self concept, which is simply what you think about yourself: am I kind? I am good student. And your self esteem, how you feel about yourself. I feel good about myself and I feel proud, are built on all this social interaction. We actually depend on other people to give us what this text calls a society reality. This is like a shared understanding of how things are and what's important. It helps us decide how we should think, what we should feel, and what we should do in different situations. In simple terms, who are you and how you feel about yourself is constantly being shaped by the people you interact with and the world you live in. You are a social being, and yourself is a social creation. Objectives: at the end of this learning module, you are expected to compare and contrast the different views of the self. It means you learn that not everyone thinks about who are you in the same way. Some ideas might focus on your feelings, others on how you act, and some on how society sees you. You'll explore this different perspective and see how they are alike and different. It's important understanding these different views help you get a more complete picture of what self means and how complex it can be. It's like looking at a diamond from different angles. Each angle shows you something new about it. Second, examine the two components of self. Means you'll discover that yourself can usually be broken down into the two main parts. Think of it like a mobile phone. It has hardware, the physical phone, and software, the apps and operating system. These two parts of the self work together. Why it's important? Knowing these components helps you understand the building blocks of your identity and how they interact to make you you. Third, describe the concept of the looking glass self and how it affects self concept. Means this is a super interesting idea. The looking glass self means that you see yourself largely based on how you imagine others see you. It's like you're constantly looking into a social mirror where other people's reactions and opinions reflect back an image of yourself. You learn how this reflection shape your self-concept, what you believe to be true about yourself, why it is important. This helps explain why peer pressure and what others say or think about us can have such a big impact on how we feel about ourselves and what we believe we're capable of. Last, explain the concept and the social comparison and why it is important to human behavior. Meaning, social comparison is something we all do all the time. We compare ourselves to others. You compare your grades to your classmates, your shoes to your friends, at your skills to a famous athletes. You learn why we do this and how it makes us act in certainly ways. Why it is important? Understanding social comparison helps us realize why we sometimes feel good about ourselves when we compare favorably, or bad about ourselves when we feel we don't measure up. It also explains why we might try harder or change our behavior based on what others are doing. So these objectives are basically telling you that by the end of this lesson, you'll be a many expert on how yourself is built and shaped by the social world around you. Sociological views of the self. First, the self as product of modern society among others. Modernization leads to a delocalized self, meaning individuals are free to define their own identity independent of traditional religious and customary constraints. One's self-identity is no longer fixed by pre-given traditional definitions. Clifford's 1973 argue that modern society allows for individuality because traditional beliefs are placed by scientific thinking. A personal connection shift to the impersonal association due to the urbanizations. The shift where traditional ways of life are disrupted delocalizes the self. First, the newfound freedom threatens the very authenticity of the self. Too many choices can make it hard to know what's genuinely real for you, like when endless dating options confuse what true love feels like. Second, alienation or marks. Our own creations, like social media, can end up making us feel disconnected or inadequate by presenting idealized, often unrealistic version of life. Third, objectification of the body. Treating a body part purely as an object to be fixed rather than seeing it as part of a whole person, as can happen in medical context. And the last, dehumanization of self. When external pressures or repetitive tasks make a person feel like a mere functions or object, losing their sense of unique identity and feelings. Solutions for individual to discover the true and authentic part of himself, herself, to realize his or her potentials. There is a need to abolish repressive social constraints. To find out who you really are and what you're capable of, you need to get rid of the strict rules and pressures that society puts on you.
Good day, everyone. I would be discussing the self as necessary fiction. Self for Nietzsche is the sum of individuals' action, thoughts, and feelings. Self is nothing more than a metaphor, a representation of something abstract and symbolic. It is possible for us to remember something even if we have not experienced it. Self has continuity even if it's only a memory. For example, either you heard or witnessed which did not happen to you. A true self is not what unites these experiences, but it is the presumed unity of this experience that give rise to concept of the self. Nietzsche argues that there is no doer behind our actions. Instead, there are only the deeds themselves. The concept of unified self is an abstraction of metaphor created for several reasons. The first is linguistic necessity. Our language forces us to use subject like I or me, leading us to believe there must be a single entity performing every action. For example, in memory, you might remember being a toddler who didn't want to share a toy, even if you don't actually recall the moment yourself. By treating this memory as part of yourself, you create a sense of continuity from the child to who you are today. The next is postmodern view of the self. Postmodern view of the self. Self is a narrative, a text written and rewritten. Self is also a story. It's a dynamic. Self is a product of modern discourse that is historically and socially imprisoned by what is acceptable by norms. Postmodernism sees the self as pluralized and dynamic rather than fixed. It is a story or a narrative that is constantly being written and rewritten based on social interactions and cultural norms. In the modern era, this is further complicated by technology, leading to a digitalized version of who you are. The following are manifestations. Number 1 is information technology dislocates the self. Thus, self is digitalized in cyberspace. Number 2, global migration produces multicultural identities. Number 3, postmodern selves are pluralized selves. The last one is construction of the self. Self is not discovered. It is made through the socialization process, but individuals are not just helpless victims of socialization. The individual is an active, strategizing agent that negotiates for the definition of himself. For example, ikaw ang gumawa ng kung ano ka. Self is acquired socially through language like symbols. We construct ourselves based on our social rules through socialization, agents, family, school, community, and we are active agents who negotiate our own definitions of who we are based on our social rules. We construct our identity through language and symbols, often reflecting the looking glass self, how we believe how others perceive us. For example, the looking glass. If your family and teachers constantly label you as the smart one, you may internalize this label and it becomes a core part of your self-identity and future choice.
Good afternoon everyone, this is my topic for today, are rewriting the self as an artistic recreation. According to the Nietzsche state, that the unity of the self is not free given but accomplished through conscious effort transforms self the beautiful work of art. Individual must fashion and care for the collective themselves. We can recreate ourselves to get hold of the present, forgive the past and the plan the future. For truth, for contingency of selfhood, console the ugly by reinterpreting the overall aesthetic contours of the self. This does not mean but the writing the narrative or herself she will discover something depth about herself. Describing one's self is about a way for interpreting the describing one's past. Nietzsche is believed that we value or identify truths, effort, and awareness. We come first life to recreating a work of art. This means it must be take care of ourselves, improve ourselves, and make choose of shift who become. We can change how to see our past, focus on the present, and plan of the future. In this way, we recreate ourselves again and again. Roto adds that when we retell our life stories, we are not always discovering a hidden true selves. Instead, we are simply giving new meaning of our experiences. We can change how we understand our past and use it to improve who we are today. This helps us accept mistakes and move forward. My explanation is this is teaches the identify is flexible. We are stuck which one versions of ourselves we can learn, grow, forgive our past, and become better people. Self-recreation and collective identify. Memories, photographies, videos. Play significant roles in recreating the selves and identify memory and forgetting are most important powers in recreating a person's identity. Just as a memory, the past includes fin, trend, etc. Just as experience of the past can be linked with a social transformation. Another important aspect of this view of the self is that self-recreation is formed within. Imagine communities self-obtain their nature from cultural tradition embodied in various social interactions. There are represented so collective narrative which becomes our reservoir for the project of self-recreation. Self-recreation culture lines must be done and maximum cultural recognition of differences among and between individuals and cultural groups. Memories like photos, videos, and experiences help from of identify, remembering, of forgetting are both important. We remember happy moments, painful times, and achievements. These experiences helps shape how we see ourselves, our past, and also connect to change in society and culture. Another important point is that we recreate ourselves within communities. We belong to families, cultures, and societies groups. The groups influence ourselves, traditions, and behavior, culture, and social interaction helps from our identity. We must be respect differences between people and cultures while building our own identity. My explanation is this is meant we don't to create ourselves alone. Society, culture, and other people play a big role in a whole we will become. self-recreation and struggle of culture recognition. This is a challenge of self-identity amidst recognition of racial and ethnic identities. Self-recreation is necessarily rounded of collective solidarities. We create ourselves are struggling which culture helpless, then owning the creative self. We hide the ugly parts of cultural, we learn to adjust. Creating our identity can be challenging, especially when dealing with race, intensity, and culture. People want their culture and identity to be respected by others. Sometimes we are faced struggle or misunderstanding the truth. With these challenges, we learn to adjust, to grow strong, and accept ourselves. We may hide the past of our culture that others do not understand, but over we learn to accept and own identity. Support from our community helps build confidence and strength. My explanation is this: the part choose the identity to shape by both personal efforts and social recognition. We grow by facing challenges and learning to accept who we are. My conclusion this topic is, in a simple terms, this identity is not fixed. We create is a truth, our choices, experiences, memories, and cultures. We can challenge how we see ourselves and improve over time. Our communities and culture also help shapes who we are. By learning from the past and working in the present, we can continue to build better version of ourselves.